All right, well, I apologize for the late start, but I would like to welcome everyone here in person and online for taking the time to come and learn about the needs and opportunities to support post-war Armenia. I would also like to thank the leadership at First Armenian Presbyterian Church for valuing this topic and providing a platform to hear from these organizations. I am Noelle Nightingale, and I'm a member here at the church, and I will be emceeing the event tonight. I've been studying the life of Joseph in the Old Testament, and one of the lessons that we draw from Joseph is that God put Joseph in a position of power with resources and connections that ultimately saved his family as well as Egypt. As we approach April 24th and we remember the Armenian genocide, we recognize the fact that we as a diaspora have been taken away from our home, and as a result of a tragic event in our history. We are here and we survived. And I believe that we are here in the US with more power, resources, and connections that most of our brothers and sisters have access to in Armenia. I believe that we are in this place for a reason. God in his mercy has blessed us so that we can turn and bless our homeland. We will hear from 3 different organizations: the Armenian Missionary Association of America, AMAA, the Armenian National Committee of America, ANCA, and Ararat Hope, to hear the ways that they are working to support Armenians and the ways that we can use our resources, power, and connections to improve the lives of those in Armenia. So first, I would like to welcome Brian Bedrosian from the AMAA. He's on the board. Come on up, and we'll hear from you.
Thank you, Noelle. I remember Noelle when she was a young girl, and they'd sit behind us, and it's great to see how the type of person you've matured and become. And we want to thank everybody for being here today in person, and also everybody on YouTube, FAPC, Fresno, and thank you for just taking your time. Like Noelle said, I don't need to repeat my name, but I am a very excited and proud Armenian. And I have to say, I've been involved with my whole family in doing things in Armenia for, probably well over 20 years. And in 2003, the next speaker, who is my very good friend Hart, in their session came to our company, National Raisin Company, and somebody from our family said, if we were to be interested in a project, could you develop 3 projects so we could choose which one? He said, yes, I will do that. So he came back and he gave us 3 projects, and we decided the project to do was a Christian camp in Shushi. Now, if you don't know where Shushi is, it's the cultural capital of Artsakh, which was where the war happened. And we decided as a family, unanimously as a family, enthusiastically as a family, to support this camp. So if you could show the first series of slides. Now you got to remember, Artsakh was a communist country. You know, it's historic Armenia. Armenians have lived there from time immemorial. The majority of the population in Armenia. Shushi has been controlled by the Armenians for thousands of years. Is it possible, could I see it in the front also, so I could look at it? Yeah. Can you do it? All right, if not, I'll just turn this way. It's not a problem. Okay, this is the beginning of Camp Bedrosian. Now, you could see me. I was a lot younger there in the corner. And if you read up there, it says AMA Camp Bedrosian. And I want to tell people, if you want to partner with a group where you know the money will be well spent and be spent to the best uses, you want to partner with the AMA. This is what it looked like basically when it started. Okay, now you can see these are the first years. These are the first years of the camp. You could see how the children, how excited they are. That those first few years, we'd have about 300 campers during 3 sessions. Then as time went on and the AMA put money in and our family put money in, the camp got better and better and better, and more children came. Now, why did we choose Shushi? The reason that we chose Shushi is because we wanted the people of Artsakh, the children of Artsakh, to know that the Armenians, a half a world away, care for them. And that we wanted them to stay in Artsakh and make it a prosperous place. And we wanted to spread the parilur, the good news. We want to spread the love of Jesus. So our experience has been, when anybody's a Christian, all of a sudden he becomes a harder worker. He becomes more honest. See, that's what I've seen in my life. People may disagree with that. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And we wanted this type of witness in Artsakh, knowing that they were just coming out of communism. Okay, let's go to the next series of slides. Now, this is as the camp started getting better. That picture in the corner talks about the idea of our family of building the camp. You know, like Jesus said, "Let the children come unto me." That was one of the verses on that sign. Now you can see the camp started getting better and better and better. Now, unfortunately, my father passed away in 2014, and my Uncle Kay, who is Linda's father, who's going to be one of the speakers, my cousin, he also passed away 6 months later. That was a big blow to our family. But $100,000 was raised, and in lieu of flowers, and it was decided that a playground would be built, the dormitories would be fixed up, so we could have even more people come, more children come and hear the good news. So after 2009, 2010, 2011, 600-700 campers would come to the camp every summer. We had 7 sessions. The Armenian Red Cross wanted to use it. The Tufankian Foundation asked to use it for their children. The Baptists wanted to use it. So we felt very, very good and very proud about that all the good that the camp was doing, and we felt that we were changing lives. So let's show the next slides. Now, if you see the 2 buildings in the corner, one is the Christian Education Building, and one is the office, and this is in Shushi in the camp. Our family, in conjunction with the AMA, built these buildings, and they were completed in 2020. Now, my cousin and Linda and I, we were supposed to go there for the opening in September 25th. We had our tickets just about ready. 2020. What happened? COVID happened, so we couldn't go. So we said, okay, we'll do it next year, no problem. Then what happened September 27th? The war started. It was unbelievable. People all along the front lines. I mean, I was just talking to my kavor about it before I started talking, and how horrible it was. But we watched every day. We would watch the news, Rosie and I. We'd listen to Artsakh Hovaneshin talk about we're winning, Hakte Luenk. In fact, I was going to wear a shirt tonight that said Hakte Luenk. But that wasn't quite the case. Now, November 6th, the Battle of Shushi started. So I wanted to relate how Shushi and the Artsakh War, number 2, were connected to each other. The Battle of Shushi started November 6th. I remember we were at our good friends Doretta and Hago Povaneshin's house, and before we had our meal, we prayed, said, "Lord, please give us victory." You know, you don't want to pray and have people killed, but we wanted to have that victory because we wanted the Artsakh people to live free and to be able to have the opportunity to be Christians. The next day I talked to my business partner who had a lot of contacts there, and he says, you know, everything's working out. It seems like we're going to hold Shushi, we're going to take it, we're going to repel the Azeris. Then I got a call later in the day from him. He said that the Armenian army, the Artsakh army has retreated. They're all gone. Everything's gone. We've lost Shushi. November 9th, the surrender and the capitulation. I have to say, it was a dark day for us. Then when we found out that everywhere that the Azeri army controlled, they were holding Shushi, that was under their control, they had it. We were stunned. The camp was gone. The camp was gone. Go back to the buildings, the picture. That building was never used by Armenians, gone. All those other buildings, gone. We're still sick about it, our family. Linda and I and my wife, we all talk about it. It just makes us sick. Not because of the investment we made, but we, as a family, we put our heart and our soul into that place. our heart and our soul. And I was so happy that my mom went in 2005 and my sister Linda and I were going to go in 2020. We were excited about it, see all the little kids. But I think about the Bible, and there's two things I think about in the Bible. One is about King David, how Saul pursued him and persecuted him for 10 years. He even sided with Israel's mortal enemy, the Philistines. But yet, God was faithful to David as David was faithful to God. And David ended up being king of Israel for 33 years, the greatest king ever of Israel. Ever. Then I think of the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul was beaten, tortured for Christ. He's whipped. I forget it's 17 whips or 47 lashes. I don't remember exactly what it is. But he ended up dying in, I think, 67 or 70 AD. But what happened? 240 years later, the greatest empire the world has ever known became a Christian empire. So God works in his own ways. So we have faith that hopefully one day we're going to get Shushi back. One day we're going to get our camp back. And we have that faith. Maybe I won't see it. I'm 63. But hopefully my granddaughters will see it. And that's our hope. So anyway, thank you for listening and thank you for being so attentive. I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about this.
Thank you, Brian. And now we're going to hear from Harut Nursesyan. He is the AMAA Armenia representative, and we'll be hearing from him on Zoom. All right, we might come back to Harut, but now we're going to hear from Linda K. Abdulyan, who is an AMA board member as well. So come on up, Linda.
Thank you, Noelle. And hello, everyone. So this has gotten a little bit out of order, and what was going to happen before I got up here is there was going to be a short 7-minute film that was going to show you the Shorey day camps. Can you play it? Okay, play it.
Once upon a time, there was a little boy who lived in a small village in Armenia. His name was Samvel, and he was 11 years old. He lived with his grandmother, his aunt, his sister, 2 brothers, and a baby. Their father left home, and their mother is in Russia working. They all live in a ramshackle structure next to a junkyard. The neighborhood cat keeps watch. Samvel has major health issues, but still is very helpful to the family. The wood he chops keeps the fire burning in the small stove that heats the house. The roof leaks and the floor and ceiling are badly damaged. The family does their best to take care of each other. Samvel's grandmother is not well, but tries to provide food for the family. The furniture is broken and constantly needs to be fixed. There is no running water, so they need to fetch it from outside. They have a limited supply of electricity and no gas to heat the rooms. They depend on firewood and anything else that burns in their small stove to stay warm. But then, the AMAA came along to help. Samvel and his sister now attend the Shok Day Center after school. They are given a hot, homemade meal, and they receive help with their homework. When Samvel first arrived, he could not read and had social issues, which made it difficult to make friends. Now that he works with the teachers at the center after school, his math and Armenian have improved. His favorite subjects in school are physical education and English. Samvel is learning computer skills at the center, and there is an art class which helps him to express himself. Social workers at the center also consult with the family to help with issues at home. Though Samvel has only been attending the center for less than a year, he is thriving.
I don't hear
improving
anything,
on
I
his
don't see
social
anything.
skills, his studies, and more importantly, he's making friends.
I'm between YouTube and Zoom trying to see
Meanwhile,
like
35 miles away in Vanitsor is 7-year-old Araxia. She
Tell
lives with her
Noelle I cannot
grandmother,
get in.
Her mother, her sister,
I don't know. I mean,
and
they
her
gave
baby
me
brother.
the link.
They
I
live
see
in
your
a
picture.
temporary place that is literally
I see
falling apart.
Greg
The walls
there,
are coming down,
but
and the roof leaks.
participants, but we don't see. Oh, you're on.
They live in
You should
2
mute
rooms
yourselves, I
that
think.
have very little light. The furniture is old and breaking, and the toilet is leaking. There is no running water because the pipes are so badly damaged. They have to fetch water from a neighbor who charges them for it. The girls help as best they can around the house, collecting wood to burn in the oven so that they stay warm. Araxia is clever and organized, but because her father was an alcoholic and abusive to her mother, she has psychological issues. She is very sensitive and often cries and is sometimes aggressive to her sister. This makes life even more difficult for Anahit, who has her own health issues. She does not have a profession and can't work because she cares for the children. She is a kind and caring mother and takes good care of the children, making sure they are well presented. Her mother helps as best she can, though she struggles with bad eyesight. Overall, the situation is almost unbearable. When the AMAA got involved with this family, their lives improved. The AMAA provides food, clothing, and winter shoes. Araxia attends the after-school program at the Shog Day Center in Vanitsor. She gets to socialize with other children and gets help with her schoolwork. Other activities include art classes and dance classes. And she is taught to pray. Samvel and Araxia are just 2 of the many children the AMAA supports thanks to your generosity. With your donations, you help to make their wishes come true.
Ես երազում եմ smart հեռախոս ունենալ, որ կարողանամ դպրոցից զանգահարել մայրիկին։ Ես երազում եմ տաք կոշիկներ ունենալ, որովհետև մեր քաղաքում ձմռանը շատ ցուրտ է։ Ես երազում եմ տաք կոշիկներ ունենալ, որ դպրոց գնամ։ Ես երազում եմ, որ գնալ մանկական սրճարան եւ խմել տաք շոկոլադ։ Ես երազում եմ տաք վերարկուն ունենալ, որ մեզ քրջոց վերարկուն այլևս չհագնի։
Ես երազում եմ աշխատանք ունենալ, որպեսզի օգնեմ իմ մայրիկին։
Ես երազում եմ մասիկներ ունենալ, որպեսզի կարողանամ հաճախել բարի։ Ես երազում եմ ունենալ տաք վերմակ, որ գիշերները չմրսեն։ Երազում եմ ես տանգի ստանամ, որ իմ հայրենիքը պաշտպանեն, հայրիկս եւ մայրիկս իմ կողքը լինեն։ Ես ուզում եմ մեծ աղջիկ ունենալ։
Ես երազում եմ ունենալ գեղեցիկ կոշիկներ։
Ես երազում եմ ունենալ տաք տուն։
Ես երազում եմ փայտ ունենամ, որ մեր տունը տաք լինի։
Ես երազում եմ ունենալ անգլերենի գիրք, որպեսզի մեծանամ եւ աշխատանք ունենամ։ Ես երազում եմ ունենալ դպրոցական սեղան, որպեսզի դրա վրա իմ դասերը գրեմ։ Ես երազում եմ մեր տանը տաք ջուր ունենալ, որ ձմռանը կարողանամ լողանալ։ Ես երազում եմ ունենալ հեծանի, որպեսզի դեղորայք շուտ հասցնեմ իմ տատիկին դեղատնից։ Ես երազում եմ տուն ունենալ, որպեսզի չհավաչեմ իմ դասընկերներին հրավիրել մեր տնակ։
right, so I think maybe we might try and get Harut again. Harut, if you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
Okay. If you could turn on your video too, if possible.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. We just can't see you.
Okay, great. I was having
great.
some technical problems. I couldn't hear anything. Now at least I can hear. Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning for me. It's 6 a.m. here in Yerevan, Armenia. And good evening to you all in California. Thank you for the invitation to participate in this event. Armenia is a Christian nation surrounded by Muslim countries. We all know that, those of us who are from Armenian background, and that has been our major challenge over the centuries. We've been attacked, we've been massacred, we've been genocide victims, but we keep hanging in. And we just experienced the Artsakh Wars. On September 27th, early in the morning, I got a phone call from our Stepanakert, our Artsakh office manager. He said, we're being attacked. It was early in the morning. He woke me up. And the war lasted for 44 days. War is a major calamity, especially for a small country such as Armenia. And the consequences of the war are severe on the population. This was a population just trying to survive, deal with the COVID, with the pandemic, and this thing came over, and you can imagine we had over 100,000 people evacuated into Armenia, and you could see the cars lining up on the roads, trying to get out of Stepanakert, and then later on, we had 4,000 soldiers killed, thousands of children orphaned, and women widowed, tens of thousands of soldiers injured and paralyzed. And now there are some 40,000 residents who don't have homes. Their homes have been occupied by the Azeri soldiers, and they're refugees, evacuees, whatever you want to call them, here in Armenia. Some have returned, but really they don't have anywhere to live. Some are renting homes. More severe or as severe, thousands of jobs and businesses have been lost, and there's immeasurable emotional and psychological damage. Now, you can imagine what all of this does to the people and to the economy of the country. Right now, people are back. 100,000 are back, some 40,000 are still in Armenia, and we're trying to reach out to both of them. Their immediate needs, immediately as soon as the war started, but we had to provide shelter, food, clothing, medical, lots of emotional challenges, as you can imagine, psychological, emotional. Their husband and their sons are on the battlefield, and they have no news. Some hear bad news. And of course, the children come here, they have nothing to do, they cannot go to school, and so education became a problem. Eventually, all of those issues were addressed over time. Right now, we face long-term problems as people have returned to their homes, those who have homes to return to. So we have to help them rebuild their lives. And this is where they need housing, they need income, they need ongoing emotional support, spiritual support, and of course, education. The kids fell behind, they're not in the mood to study, and so on. And AMAA is there to help, and we helped from the first day of the war. We opened our facilities for evacuees to live in, and we're still housing a few at our camp in Hankavan. Now, one of the programs I want to talk to you about is the Empower an Artsakh Family. And this program is designed to help families rebuild their lives over the next 2 years. And each family is assigned a social worker, a professional, and we provide them quarterly financial aid, which is significant for these people. And the social worker works with these families to guide them as to how to make best use of these funds, mostly to help them rebuild their lives, set up a small business, get some training so that they can get a job and earn some income. And it's meant to help these families become financially independent over the next 2 years. And this is the Empower Artsakh Families, and we have several other programs that I believe Linda Kay will talk about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harut. Alrighty, guys, it's my turn now. So I'm going to tell you how I got involved with AMAA, what AMA did to my life, and also how you can be a part of it. Because in this film, I had a whole big speech planned, and about 3 hours ago, I viewed that film for the very first time in my office, and that last bit was Proverbs 19:20. Whosoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord. So wait. Whosoever is generous with the poor lends to the Lord. And when I read that, and the Lord will repay him for his deed. And when I read that one little scripture, it summed up my experience with AMAA. And I'm talking to you two boys, because I have a couple of SAEs here from Fresno State. So this is for you, okay? So let's get my first slide up here. And in 1998, so Armenia is no stranger to disaster. So in 1998, we had a massive earthquake in what was then Soviet Armenia. And in that earthquake, I'm giving a small history lesson, 25 to 60,000 people perished. About 125,000 people were injured, and these were serious injuries. But what was the big deal is 500,000 people. 500,000 people were homeless. And at that time, that was December of '88, because in January of '89, I went on my first date with my husband, Dr. John, and we talked about the Armenian earthquake, and we talked about the people of Armenia. And back then, there was no internet, there was none of this. So you had to get all your information from Armenian newspapers, Armenian magazines, and you kind of had to filter it down to figure out what was going on in Armenia. So that was in '88, '89. I got married in '90. I lived in a lot of places in Southern California. In 1995 comes, I have a little girl, my cousin Tammy, Brian's sister. She's living in Los Angeles then, and she says, "Hey, Linda, one of my girlfriends is having a little lunch at her house, and bring Alexis. Alexis, my little girl, just born." And she said, I'm bringing Courtney, and everybody's bringing their little girls. And they're going to talk about the AMAA. And I remember I had heard about the AMAA from my grandmother, Elizabeth. She was from an orphanage, Bird's Nest orphanage, that had some interconnection with AMAA. Nevertheless, I go to Sandra's house. This is my girlfriend, Sandra Kalamkarian, and she has 20 of us girls. I didn't know anybody but Tammy. And we heard about AMAA, gave a little check, met everybody, and that was that. Then in 1987, I get a call from one of those girls at that lunch, and she said, Linda, we're gathering girls, and we want to put a little lunch together, a banquet for the orphans, the Armenian orphans from AMAA. And I remember thinking, orphans? Good heavens, there's still orphans from that earthquake back in 1988? How could there be orphans? That's like 9 years ago. So I'm hemming and hawing because I've got a 2-year-old, and 2-year-olds they're wild, okay? Alexis was no exception. So I called my mother. I said, Mom, I could go to this luncheon. I go on. And my mother, in her typical Catherine Bedrosian style, goes and says, Linda, if you can't give your 100% commitment to the AMAA or to what they're asking of you, then don't go at all. Because, I'm commiserating back and forth how busy I am, right? So I hung up the phone and I rolled the dice, not literally, but in my head, and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go to this thing. I'm going to see what the AMA is all about. Okay. Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord. I go to this lunch, there's about 15 of us girls, and they talk about how they want to have like a little awareness program for AMAA, and they start passing out pictures of these orphan kids. Now, if you saw that short film, these kids look fantastic. AMAA has done a remarkable job with these children, because what I saw was sheer and utter disaster. It was poverty. I couldn't believe. I even asked, I remember I said, when were these pictures taken? Expecting to hear that the pictures I saw were taken probably, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. And the one gal says, I just came back from Armenia about 3, 4 weeks ago. I mean, these kids were just, so they had been 8 years kind of homeless, running around. Armenia looked more disastrous than I had ever could imagine. These kids were dirty. Some of them had no limbs. Some of them had, they had some difficulties, no doubt about it. A lot of them had some handicaps and difficulties. So that first 1997, I committed myself. I remember we had 100 people at this little event. We had it at some hotel in Los Angeles. And we collected, I think it was like $25,000. We were like amazed. So, but I was hooked with the AMA because that money went directly to those kids. And at that luncheon, I sponsored an orphan. She had a 4-syllable first name. Now, I'm an American Armenian from Fresno, so my Armenian is absolutely terrible. Even though I went to Holy Trinity Saturday School for probably 7 years, my Armenian is just disastrous. But so I could never pronounce this girl's 4-syllable name. I had that little girl all the way from the time she was 5 or 6 to the time she was 18. She was my orphan. So every year when you sponsor an orphan, you have this slide up there, every year you sponsor an orphan, they send you a letter. And if you're fortunate enough like me, you get that same orphan, that orphan comes back, or that child comes back, and you'll see the letters change. First it's adult handwriting, then it's the child's handwriting, and then the letters are terrible, and then all of a sudden, meaning that there's a lot of despair. And then all of a sudden, you see that the letters change, that these kids come into their own, and they talk about their programs, and they talk about what they're doing, and they talk about their hopes and their dreams. And then I remember the last letter I got from her, because she said she graduated out of the program. And the very last letters, she was writing them, and every year I kept this girl's picture. Because of course I'm a Bedrosian, so I want to make sure, and an Abduli, and I want to make sure it's the same girl, and it sure was. Now I've sponsored several orphans, children, or now it's not called orphan care, it's called child sponsorship. There are no more orphans. So I've sponsored several children. Some of them stay on the list, some of them don't, they disappear. Maybe their families are economically have grown, so they get off the list. Anyway, I always supported AMAA. Then I moved to Fresno, and I, along with my cousin Brian and my brother and all of our other cousins and my sister, we were there with our fathers at National Raisin Company, and we were entrenched with working. And also my focus changed because Brian would always talk about the camp, the camp, the camp, the camp. And we loved that camp. Well, now let's get to the next slide. The Schultz Day Center. So I get on the AMA board. I'm excited. I'm the board of directors. And even though I was the West Coast chairman for the child and orphan care from, I don't know, let's say 2000 to 2007, 2020, when I got to be elected to the AMA board of directors, it was an honor and a privilege. And I got to I always knew that AMAA was very good at accounting and bookkeeping. But when you're on the board, this is a real business. They are transparent to every dollar that is raised. The AMAA accounts for it. It is marked, it is accounted down to the very penny. Running a missionary association is tough. It is a business. Not only is there the fundraising aspect of it, but it's the investment of the funds. It's where to put the funds. AMA is constantly, they're chronically evaluating all of their programs, assessing it, and they're changing things. They're developing it to keep up with the times. Then you have the aspect of the Christian outreach. Are we getting to these kids? Are we making a difference? Are we evangelizing Jesus Christ? What are we doing? Are we getting that back from the community? Is our outreach really working? Because every one of your dollars has to work and has to be accounted for, and it matters. So I'm going to tell you, there is no doubt. I've been with this organization now for 23 years. No doubt where the money's going. I had one of my friends that's probably watching that would always say, I'm not quite sure. Oh, they told me, oh, I don't believe in any of these Armenian organizations because all the money goes to administration. I guarantee you, AMAA, your donation goes straight to where you want it to go to. Because they have such investments. The investments take care of whatever administration there is. So your money goes where you say you want it to go. So let's talk about these Shulk Day Centers. The Artsakh War hits. COVID hits. Okay, I'm on the development committee of AMAA. January I got voted in. March was my first meeting. First week in March, I go to Los Angeles on the board. Great meeting. I'm the head of the development, chairman of development, which is getting the word out about AMA and just getting the awareness about the organization. Second week, COVID hits. Well, no one's going to talk about AMA and the outreach, right? We're talking about COVID-19, coronavirus. And my son moves home, right? Because he's at Fresno State and everything's closed down. And, the year goes by and the war hits. So our family is entrenched in this daily, every 3 hours we're asking Brian, what's going on? Is the camp okay? What's happening? Were there any casualties? So my son is listening to these conversations at home because, we talk about all kinds of things happening in the world and how we can contribute and how we can give back and are we making a difference and all these subjects. And he's hearing me talk about Artsakh and what's happening. So he says, Mom, what can we do to help? He was a pledge at the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity at Fresno State. And he said, Mom, we want to raise money. Can we raise money for AMAA? So I said, well, go and have your president, Matt A. Stone, have him call up, Zavin Klanjan at AMAA and talk to him. So that's what Matt A. Stone does. He calls up Zavin Klanjan, who's the president and chairman. He's the big boss of AMA. And they talk about what they can do. So they centered on these Shulk Day Centers. So I've learned something. Like AMAA, you always have to change and maneuver. I started with orphan care or child care. I believe in it. But I'm seeing that with this new generation, what's resonating with these young adults is these day centers because they all understand it. You don't understand about orphans or childcare, but you understand about day centers because everybody has somewhere to go after school. And if you look at this, our day centers, what they do is they take these children, about 270 kids in the Shulk Day Centers. They teach them tutoring, the Christian values. They give them a hot meal. It's all listed up there. Healthy parenting skills, psychological healing, art classes, life skills, social and emotional learning. But this is what it really does. Here are these kids, they leave school, they have somewhere to go after school, They know that the teachers and administrators there are waiting for them. They have a sense of somewhere to belong. And for those 2 to 3 hours that they're there after school, they're safe, they're getting their homework done, they're learning, they're interacting with other children, and they're learning about the Lord. This is a wonderful ministry that the AMA has stumbled upon. And not only stumbled upon, but this ministry is growing. So Daniel, my sons, Daniel, come on up here. Matt, come on up here. So they did a little fundraiser for their fraternity, and they raised a lot of money. They raised $22,780. And just turn around to show them, stand for Armenia. And it says Sigma Alpha Epsilon, support Armenia and the Armenian Missionary Association of America, and it has the flag on it. And I'm going to ask you, now this is so impromptu, because I told Danny, I said, come and wear the t-shirts, but did you all know anything about AMA, and just tell us a little bit about this, and when you got those pictures from AMA, how'd that make you feel?
Yeah, so when we originally came up with the idea to use our philanthropy to help Armenia, obviously we have already heard about the war, but Dan was actually the one who introduced us to the AMA because of you. And when we looked at those pictures of those kids and just saw how much they were struggling, it's kind of hard not to help, you know what I mean? So we were very honored to work with AMA, and we're very happy that we raised the amount of money we did, because we know it's going to go straight to them and make their lives better. But yeah, we really appreciate all the help that we got from the Armenian community in Fresno. Everyone really rallied together and helped us out, so we just want to say thank you, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, boys.
Thank you.
So from that little t-shirt sale, and all their money went to those kids up there, and those kids said thank you. Now, this is my push. And I challenge all the young people out there, because as this COVID is leaving us, this is something that we could do, because AMA has changed and has morphed. So how can you help? Well, you can go on ama.org. And through the pandemic, we've changed the website. So it's like a little menu. It's very intuitive. You click on there, whatever you can give. You have a lot of different options. It's just like when you go and when you're at Chipotle and you're looking to see what you want to put in your bean burrito there. So these have a lot of little options. You can go to the Chauvet Day centers, you can sponsor a family, you can sponsor an orphan, you can give an orphan a coat, you can give a child a coat, you can put some money toward shoes, you can put some money toward meals. So whatever range you have, you can donate to it. But I just don't want your donation. I need your time and awareness. So if you want to give back, whoever is generous to the poor leads to the Lord. So you're generous to the poor, it leads to the Lord. But when it's generous of your money, of your time, and of your devotion, because like my cousin Brian, you could sense he was emotionally, he's passionate about the camp in AMA, and so am I, and the Lord will repay us with our good deeds, because the Lord has repaid us with our deed. I never thought the Lord would repay me, but I feel I'm doing something greater than myself. You boys are doing something greater than yourselves, though you may not know it, but you've attracted all these kids. So I'm going to be contacting various people in our community to help me with just awareness with AMA and anything that's raised. Little seminars or get-togethers or little sales through Fresno State or anywhere up and down, the state of California. Raising funds and just having the young people aware of what missionary work is all about and what philanthropy is all about. For those of you here that have youth, speak to them, encourage them to learn about the AMAA, how to get involved with its humanitarian work. I am always available. My cousin Brian and I are at National Raisin Company in Fowler, California. National Raisin. We're all over the place. So you call us, we will call you back, and we will help you get involved. And support the care of the refugees and AMAA's post-war humanitarian projects for ARTSOG. So as the boys did, as all of us are doing, go on the website. It's great. Just scroll right through it. AMA is always evolving. It's not an old-fashioned website. It's going to show you whatever money you want to give, or if you want to give of your time, you just click away. I want to thank you for your attention, and again, AMAA, all of your money, every dollar is accounted for. It's a transparent organization. It's an organization that is keeping our Christian faith alive. We are disciples of Christ, and that's the AMA's mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda Kay. Next, we're going to have Sevag Tatiosin come and speak to us from the ANCA. He is a volunteer advocate. I like that title, so come on up.
Thank you, Noelle, and thank you for putting this event on. It's not easy coordinating these type of things, and so I want to thank you for doing this. I want to also thank Tim, your other half, who is probably at the castle right now, holding down the fort while you're here doing this, so thank you to him as well. Thank you to Pastor Haratunian. I saw you comment on YouTube earlier this evening, so thank you for allowing us to be here to talk about this. This kind of gatherings are so important. So thank you also to the board at FAPC, First Armenian Presbyterian Church, for doing this. I mean, I think we don't do this enough in our community, and we need to do this more. So shout out to you for doing this. Now I'm calling out the rest of the churches. We've got several in the valley. We want to come to your church and present like this as well. So let's see who is next. My name is Sevag. I'm from the Armenian National Committee of America, Central California. Before I begin, there are some core members of the ANC here that I'd like to just introduce. Paul Jamushian, who some of you know back there. Garo Atikian, who some of you know. Vic Vaher Garibian. And then also some of the supporters, which we have a lot of supporters here, so thank you for that as well. How I got involved in the Armenian National Committee of America, about 20 years ago, I went to intern in Washington, D.C., and Mr. Jamushian, I'm going to tell this story. I went to intern. I was 19 years old. I just gave you my age, so there you go. I want to say that because I know some of you are calculating, that right now. I'm up front. So I went to Washington, D.C., and I stayed with Mr. Paul Jamushian. He said, you're interning here. Why stay at a hotel? Come stay here. And so I stayed there. And one night, I didn't get home till 3 a.m. And we're in Washington, D.C. Georgetown is around. Don't go there, y'all. Guess where we were interning all night? Because at the time, there was media about former Speaker Hastert, who some of you have heard about, and this FBI probe. So us interns were email blasting this all over the place, anybody we can get to, and eventually the media caught on to it. And in Georgia, where Hastert was from, they played some video clips, and so they did. They talked about some of these FBI probes, which was great. But so I come home, and the next morning, like a family member would say, or a father would say, or a big brother would say, he says, so what time did you get in last night? Thinking I was probably partying, 18, 19-year-old. And I said, I think it was 2 or 3. I lost track of time. And he goes, what were you guys doing? And I said, we were interning. He goes, ha. And then he asked around, and he was surprised to find out we were interning. So, I went to intern there. I learned so much, and I'm so appreciative of that. And I'm going to show a little bit of a presentation on what we do, what we're doing, and after this, there's homework for you all. Yes, even for you all who are at home watching this, you're going to have homework too. It's going to be easy, but it's still homework. So ANCA's main goals, they're to foster public awareness in support of a free, united, and independent Armenia, to influence and guide U.S., California, and local policy on matters of interest to the Armenian American community, to represent the collective Armenian American viewpoint on matters of public policy while serving as liaison between the community and elected officials. Next slide. So, initiating legislation on issues of concern to Armenian American. These are just fancy ways of saying we're lobbyists, right? I mean, we lobby, and that's a bad word, but some people think of that as a bad word, but we try to influence public policy on things of concern to Armenian Americans. Armenian Americans have done tremendous things in the community here in Fresno and around the nation, and so there are some things that we're trying to accomplish on a policy level. So supporting Artsakh as right for self-determination and independence within secure borders, increasing U.S. aid level to Armenia, and recognition of the Armenian genocide. So I want to just show this brief clip of the chairman of the Armenian National Committee. Sure. So basically,
the Representative Jim Costa of California for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your time as well. And I also believe that as part of your overall efforts that restoring morale for the men and women who have served our nation in the State Department is going to be among your high priorities after the last 4 years. I want to ask a couple quick questions. It's been touched upon earlier, but the efforts with regards to the November 8th Accord between Azerbaijan and Armenia included resolution of prisoners of war and citizens that are still being withheld by Azerbaijan. I would like you to focus some time to figure out how we might be able to return those per the agreement, and if you could let us know of a plan. We have a group that is trying to put pressure on the Azerbaijans to keep their agreement. Yeah, that would be helpful.
I agree with you. I spoke to the Armenian Prime Minister just a few days ago, and this was one of the things that we focused on.
So this was a little later on in the presentation.
In addition to that, the strength of our transatlantic relationship is...
But I can talk about it right now. So this is, one of the efforts. The gentleman you saw was the Secretary of State of the United States, and this was Congressman Costa, who is a local representative, has been very passionate, has been a strong advocate of Armenian American issues, and he took the time and opportunity to ask about the prisoners of war to the Secretary of State of the United States. Just think about that, put that in perspective. That's an amazing thing that he did, getting the message across that we really care about this. So locally, the ANC does flag raisings. We ask for genocide resolutions. We get statements from candidates, and we partner with media and local officials, elected officials. This is a picture of the flag raising. I recognize some of you as being there. Pastor Haratunian, thank you. You've always been a guest at the flag raising as well. This Saturday, there's going to be a low-key kind of flag raising at City Hall. Mayor Dyer and Congressman Costa are going to raise the flag. Because of COVID, it hasn't been promoted much, but these are the kind of things that continue. This is a genocide resolution that got passed, or proclamation, by the city of Fresno last week. And so, we reached out to our friends on the city council, and we had them, do this. It's a genocide recognition. This is one of our candidate forums. So during election time, with COVID, it was a little different, but post-COVID, we see ourselves doing a little bit more of this kind of candidate conversation type things, where here we brought candidates, this is a city council candidate for District 2. We brought them and, we heard about them, we heard their priorities, and we asked them some questions. So this is Congressman Costa, Congressman Nunes, one of the other congressmen locally, and one of this was a statement he issued last year. Turkey's belligerent threats against Armenia are provocative and unacceptable. Both Turkey and Azerbaijan must stand down and respect the ceasefire with Armenia. Assemblyman Patterson, he also made a statement regarding the hostilities in Azerbaijan and Armenia. So this was the video that you saw earlier. We don't have to see it again, but again, critical, asking the Secretary of State to look into the POW issue, which, by the way, there's still over 200 prisoners of war in Azerbaijan. That's a lot, and the war has ended, right? I mean, but we have to do more as a community to ask our representatives to do more, because they're not doing enough. As great of a relationship as we have with them, they're not doing more, and that's what we need to do. That's what we as a community need to do, is ask them to do more, because the war has ended. There's no reason for these prisoners of war to be there. So this is just Congressman Valadeo, another local congressman. He's co-chair of the Congressional Caucus on Armenian Issues. And the next slide, I think next slide or the following slide will talk about what it is, some of the priorities that they're asking for. So the Armenian Caucus seeks over $100 million in U.S. aid for Artsakh and Armenia. Now, I'm a conservative guy, and that number is nothing compared to the amount of foreign aid that the United States gives around the world. So as Armenian Americans, we've donated, we've contributed, we've led businesses, we've all over. I mean, it's countless what we've done in this country. So that's a drop in the bucket, as someone said, compared to all the foreign aid we're doing. So part of your homework later on today, which Gato in the back is going to pass out at the end of my presentation, is to call your congressional members and ask for something. If it's ask for the passage of this, or ask them to do more on the prisoner of war issue, we'll leave that up to you. So the other thing we want to talk about is the Armenian Caucus got funding for Halo Trust. They were the ones that did the and there was a presentation in Fresno that Halo Trust did. They're the ones that deactivated mines in Artsakh and Armenia. This is another candidate forum. Lieutenant Governor Eleni stopped by Fresno, met with the Armenian American community, and specifically sought out meeting with members of the Armenian National Committee of America, talked about her priorities, and we were able to ask her questions. So, I mean, for her to be a lieutenant governor of California and us be able to ask her direct questions, that's powerful. So again, our partnerships are with our congressional leaders, our state representatives, our local elected officials, and our media. Fresno Bee has been putting out some editorials. Fresno Bee is going to be doing some more articles for the Armenian genocide, so watch the newspaper this weekend. And so your homework. So a couple of things you can do, and if Gato can pass out the little slips of paper to the group. Become a rapid responder. That's this form. You can, for those of you who want to become a rapid responder, the program is easy. Some of you are rapid responders, but all you do is you sign up your name, address, and the ANC will do on major issues, the ANC will do the work for you and contact your representative. So it's easy. You get an email that it's been done, so you know exactly what's been done, but it's an easy way to contact your representative. One of the videos earlier that we didn't get a chance to see was that over 1 million people have contacted their representative and asked for the recognition of the Armenian genocide. Over 1 million people. That's a lot of people, folks. So on your little slips there, you've got the numbers to your Congress members. You've got your numbers to the Fresno Bee. Your homework is to call them. Call them up. Tell them what are important to you as an Armenian American. And so these are some of the things that we as the ANC do and are involved in. So with that, again, I want to thank First Armenian Presbyterian Church. Thank you, Noelle, for putting this thing on. We look forward to doing more things like this to spread the word. I mean, you know, you just heard from AMAA, wonderful organization doing some wonderful things in Armenia and Artsakh, amazing. I think the touching, it was a very touching video. I think one of the most touching things are the kids that were talking. And so amazing organizations out there doing good work. Please visit anca.org, look at what we're doing, help us advocate for what issues are important to Armenian Americans. Earlier I said lobbying, it was kind of a joke because lobbyists have this bad name, but no, it's advocates. We're advocates. We're advocates for Armenian American issues. And so with that, thank you very much, and looking forward to working with you all. And rapid responder cards are here somewhere for those of you who haven't signed up yet.
Thank you, Sevag. That was informative, and it's a good highlight of the work that the ANC does. Next, we're going to hear from Craig Simonian. He is also in Armenia. He is the director of Ararat Hope, and we're going to hear a little bit about what he is doing there. So, Craig, are you there?
Well, hello everyone at FAPC.
All right, yeah, great. Welcome.
It's really exciting to be part of it. Thank you, Noelle and Pastor Greg. Thanks for having me. Paul, thank you so much. And thank you for the church for your support and getting behind what my wife Joyce and I are doing in Ararat Hope here in Armenia. We've been living here now for 3 years, and our vision has been to reach this generation. Of course, probably all of us have that same passion, you know, to reach this generation. Half the country is under 35 years of age, and we really believe that God is raising up this generation. This is a unique period of our history, and God is reaching this generation. And as we see this generation reached, we're going to see this generation reaching the nations. And the openness that we're seeing right now is extraordinary. And we're meeting with young adults every day. I mean, sometimes 20 to 100 people a day. It's just extraordinary what we're seeing and how God is moving. And we're seeing this across the country, from the 13 cities that we're focused on that are over 20,000 people, and the 1,300 villages of Armenia. So a lot's happening here. We're really blessed and excited. We're believing that God is going to use this generation to be a light in the darkness, and we've started several mission schools, and we're seeing fruit from that. But of course, the war changed a lot. It didn't change our vision, but certainly how we go about our vision and how we prioritize our time has been impacted. This generation has, as we all know, experienced this horrific loss, up to 5,000 young men. And I don't know if you've done the numbers, but if you look at a population of 3 million and a loss of 5,000, that's the equivalent of the United States losing more people than we lost in World War I and World War II together. And that's in just a period of 44 days. So it's had an extraordinary impact in the country. And of course, along with that, we've got those 200 prisoners of wars and 10,000 wounded soldiers. And from day one, we've been in the hospitals, literally from the first day of the war, been in the hospitals, praying for wounded soldiers, ministering to them. We're still in the psych wards, ministering to wounded soldiers, dealing with their trauma. And some months ago, we started retreats for wounded soldiers, unchurched wounded soldiers. And they understood that they were coming to these gatherings, 3-day gatherings, to hear our perspective from God's word. And I think even we were surprised that everyone was saying yes. Our first one was the smallest. It was 35 people, 30 young men gave their lives to Jesus, and it just kept growing from there. Our last one we did in partnership with our very good friends with Young Life, whom we work with so much. And out of the 80 wounded soldiers that participated, 70 gave their lives to Jesus. And of course, we're following through with that. And I mean, part of why we're so passionate about wounded soldiers is the great need in this group of people, because they're part of the generation that we're here to reach, but also because this is just an open window here that is not going to stay open. I mean, you all know how trauma works. What they're experiencing now, what they're willing to talk about, what they're willing to address and deal with and actually come to God with. Maybe another 3 months, maybe another 6 months, all that trauma is going to be pushed down. It's going to be less accessible to them. So we're really seizing this moment. We've got another camp for wounded soldiers coming up, and at least 1 or 2 a month. We're doing this now, and again, we're really blessed to see how God is opening hearts, because every one of these boys has horror stories, and I could certainly share so many with you. You can only imagine what some of them have experienced, and so. But we're there, we're dealing with it, and we're seeing such great faith come from these young men, and they're going to be part of this movement. Many already are part of this movement of this generation, reaching this generation so that this generation can reach the nations. I want to just mention the fact that you all are supporting us in doing this, and because of you, we're able to put 6 young leaders on stipends who are doing discipleship and evangelism amongst this community of wounded soldiers. You've given us a gift that allows us to buy Bibles that are really helpful here. These camouflage covered Bibles that the soldiers really like. And I mentioned that we partner so much with Young Life, and I want to thank you as a church for the way you support Young Life and Armin and Lilith, the Young Life leaders in Armenia. From 5 years ago when I first started coming to Armenia, I could see that Armin and Lilith and Young Life in Armenia were creating a whole new lane, and God was using them to reach a group of people, I mean, young people in this country that others just weren't going to reach, and we're just seeing Young Life doing such amazing things. So we're part of that. We're meeting with Young Life leaders every week. Because of this gray hair here, I get to coach and lead and minister to their leaders and to all their groups. So we love partnering with them. But thank you guys for partnering with Young Life. We're going to be working to start a Young Life club in Artsakh. So we're really blessed by your faithfulness in reaching this generation and joining with us, that we get to do this together. If you don't know me, by the way, Facebook me at Craig Simonian, and we can chat. But thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you, Craig. And so right now we're going to have a time of question and answers. So if I could have the speakers come back up here, and maybe we could just spread out on the stage. And also we're going to have access to the people on Zoom as well, Craig and Harut. So if you would come on up, guys. So what we're going to do, if you have a question, just go ahead and say it, and I will repeat it in the microphone so everyone online can hear what the question was. Well, I actually have a question for Sabag. I know I've been hearing that President Biden is possibly going to be recognizing the genocide. What can we do? You mentioned the billion calls that took place. Is there something more that we can do to encourage our president to recognize the genocide?
Yes, I would say there are, and I'm glad you brought it up, Noelle, because news is happening so fast that even today, as of maybe a couple of hours ago, big media outlets like New York Times are reporting that this year President Biden may acknowledge the Armenian genocide. Well, I don't want to sound like a pessimist. I'll be glad if it happens, but we've heard this before, right? You all in the room have heard this before. So I think you ask a very good question. For us here today and those watching this on YouTube and Facebook, you have to call your representative. I mean, call your federal representative, tell them that you heard that President Biden might recognize the genocide, tell them you want them to make a call to the Biden administration and actually recognize the genocide. Because you know what, until it happens, I'm not going to believe it. You know, gone are the days when I was the little boy who used to get excited. Yes, President Bush is going to recognize the genocide. No, it didn't happen. Yes, President Obama is going to do it. No, it didn't happen. Yes, President Trump's going to do it. No, it's not going to happen. So I just think we just need to make the calls and do the work. And yes. So for maybe the audience in here, we heard that, but I want to reiterate that for our friends on YouTube and Facebook. A couple of things there. 100 members of the Armenian caucus sent a letter to President Biden asking him to recognize the Armenian genocide. That's powerful. But number two, I think Mr. Jamushian brings up a good point here, that this could be a ploy between the Biden administration to kind of say, hey, we're going to recognize the genocide, to have Turkey do something. We don't know what that something is, but it's politics. These games happen. And so if it happens, great. We'll celebrate and say, finally, it happened. And if it doesn't happen, we're going to keep pushing. I mean, we've been pushing this long. Reagan recognized it, and he's the only one that did. Great question.
So, wait, I have a question for you. About the 200 POWs.
Mm-hmm.
What is advancing in that? I mean, is anything happening? Are we closer? Are they a bargaining chip?
Not enough is happening, and some of you may know that last week, I think it was, an airplane came into Armenia with X amount of, yeah, you heard about that. So I'll just tell the story. Last week, we had Armenian families go to the airport or wherever they were meeting this Russian jet, thinking that 14 or 16 POWs were going to get released, and they get there and the jet opens the doors and nobody's in there. And it's Azerbaijan, a way to kind of say, you know, not nice things to Armenians. And so what is happening, I think we need to do more. Not enough is happening from our local leaders and our local Congress members. They've done good stuff, but on this issue, we need to push them more because, you know, Turkey will eventually listen to the United States. There's so much business interest there that eventually they will. But we haven't, as United States, put enough pressure on them. Look what happened in France when France recognized it. They pulled some satellite deals, and then years later, it was the best business that they've ever had together. So, you know, and then it's the air base. Incirlink Air Base is another issue that we need to address. But going back to, yeah.
I got a question for you. How about the Armenians? They returned all the Azeris.
They did, and this is another, okay, so I don't, you know, I don't want to hog up too much time here, but yes, this is another good point. The Armenian side returned all the prisoners of war. The Azeri side did not hold up to their bargain. Now, some people will say, why did Armenia release the prisoners and without getting their prisoners in return? And we've had some high-level U.S. representatives ask that question. Yes? No, I'm glad you're bringing that up. More needs to be done, and we need to be doing more. And that's why I was so glad to get invited here, and we get invited to speak like this all the time, because I don't think, and some people may get mad at me for saying this, but as Armenian Americans, we don't get involved enough in the politics side of it. We do great in our businesses, we do great in law, we do great in so many other things, and we need to be more active. We need our voices to be heard. I was talking to somebody about this earlier today. We play too nice. We play too nice. We need to be more of an advocate and push some of these issues. And there's nothing wrong with that. These are issues we care about, and we're residents, we're constituents. We've brought so much to this valley and this country.
All right, any other questions or, yes? So I'll just repeat the question. So the question was, are there any psychological or trauma offerings for the people either who were soldiers or the families or the people in general in Armenia? So maybe Harut or Craig could, yeah.
Harut can answer that if he's
Harut,
still on.
if you're
He's
still
right
there.
And yes, there is.
Is he still there? No.
I mean, I can...
Oh, he is?
Is he on?
Harut, if you're there, we can't see you. No, that's Bod Billy Greg, not Harut. Okay, Craig, how about, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
And then we'll hear from Craig as well.
It's just whatever I've read online. I know that they're working with the children in Artsakh and, like with the Scholl Center and stuff, and they're talking to them and giving them some type of psychological help. But that's all I've read online, and families too. Thanks, Lynn.
They are.
Harut can answer much better than we can, but I guess it's almost work time.
Harut can tell you where exactly and the specifics of it. But I know the psychological burdens that these families suffer. Of course AMA is there, because that's a big part of it. It's a humanitarian effort. Christian outreach, humanitarian effort. But yes, the psychological, the making people whole, that's a big part of it. And that's a pillar foundation for AMA.
Right, and I know that other presentations I've been part of with AMA, they have a program providing tablets for children that have, I'm not exactly sure of the logistics of it, but basically there's programs and apps that they can use to help assist in the trauma healing. And I know that Craig had also mentioned, Craig, is there a little bit more you want to say about the trauma healing with soldiers that you're involved in?
Yes, there are psychologists. Can you hear me? AMA does have psychologists in our shows. I'm here. Oh.
Okay, Craig, how about, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
and then we'll hear from Craig as well.
It's just whatever I've read online. I know that they're working with the children in Artsakh and, like with the Scholl Center and stuff, and they're talking to them and giving them some type of psychological help. But that's all I've read online. Families too, thanks to them. That's much better than me too. But I guess it's almost work time.
Yes.
Exactly, and the specifics of it. But I know the psychological burdens that these families suffer. Of course, AMA is there, because that's a big part of it. It's a humanitarian effort. Christian outreach, humanitarian effort. But yes, the psychological, the making people whole. That's a big part of it. That's a pillar foundation for AMA.
Right, and I know that other presentations I've been part of with AMA, they have a program for children that have, I'm not exactly sure of the logistics of it, but basically there's programs and apps that they... Okay, so I guess we're getting like a funny playback from Harut. Okay, Harut, are we good now? A little bit more you want to say about the trauma healing? Okay. Okay. Craig, would you like to comment on the trauma healing work?
Yes, we're getting a little bit of feedback.
We do have psychologists. There's a time lag.
There is. Yeah, there's a time lapse.
Nicole, are you asking me? Noelle, are you asking me to speak?
Sorry. Yeah. Is there a way to mute Harut? No. Okay. So Craig, if you would maybe
we do have psychologists on our staff at the show centers, and we also have psychologists throughout to work with the children and the families, both in Armenia and Artsakh.
So obviously, this situation is bigger than anyone was prepared for. The government is doing probably everything they can do. The psych wards are full, the hospital beds are full, dealing with the trauma. From the beginning, we've been doing Zoom calls with trauma specialists, training people from various churches. We've done seminars in trauma. So we've really been working hard to equip the local church to deal with trauma, because the church should be on the front lines of this. There's only so much any government can do. Every church has lost people. Young Life, as you may know, has lost so many of their boys. Just one club near us has lost 5 boys out of 25 people. And so we're training in trauma and various healing. So yeah, we're working really hard to that, and we're just tipping the surface here. Again, we're in the psych wards, we're ministering, we're praying, and we're seeing fruit from it, but we're all playing catch up here.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Yes. Yeah, so he was just sharing that Fowler passed a resolution recognizing the Armenian genocide, and they were able to use that resolution to encourage their congressmen to take further action in recognizing the Armenian genocide or whatever ways that. So it's kind of like you build upon the various elements that you have access to, and then through that, you can get kind of like the people that are maybe higher up to see that their constituents really care about that, right? Yeah. Any other questions? No?
There was one more that was just, if you could list out the representatives of who people should contact.
Okay.
Just list that out. So great question. If you're in the Fresno Central Valley area, we have 3 Congress members: Congressman Jim Costa, Congressman David Valadeo, and Congressman Devin Nunes. So yeah, we would just encourage you to reach out to them. Google their name, and their local office will come up. If you don't get a chance to get that number, I can give it to whoever's on YouTube here, and we can type those numbers out but those are important. One last thing I do want to say, this is another something that's very new, is there's a interest of Armenian Americans to name a school in Fresno Unified after an Armenian American. Well, off of 10th and I think 4th or 8th, 10th and Ventura, there's a new campus going over there. And so there's not conflicting, but there are two groups proposing names. The Armenian Americans want to name it after Mr. Tatarian. And so there's another group that want to name it after someone else. But Fresno Unified, in its history, does not have an Armenian American named school. It's tough to imagine, very tough to imagine that Armenian Americans have done so much and we don't have a name after a school. This is prime old Armenia town, and let's see what the Fresno Unified School is going to do. So that's some of this advocacy work. We need to do more to get word out that we care, or else if they don't hear from us, they're not going to want to name it after an Armenian American. So anyway.
Okay, so I think that there weren't any other questions. I would like to thank all of our presenters, Brian Bajosian, Linda K. Abdulian, Seva Tatiosian, and then in Armenia, Craig Simonian and Hart Nerseshian. Could we give them all a round of applause? So we have heard from each organization and about what is happening in Armenia, both the needs as well as the devastation that occurred, especially as a result of the war. You may feel upset or angry or frustrated or sad or maybe even hopeful about the situation. And one of the things that I've recognized in myself is that when I have that response and I feel it, that is my body telling me I care. And if you had that response to any of the presentations that you heard, it means that you care. And I would encourage you to respond to the various organizations that presented here, whether it be with AMAA, the ANCA, or with Ararat Hope. I would encourage you to use the God-given resources of power, connections, and your financial resource that God has blessed us with. And also, in addition to the organizations, one of the women in our church who's an artist, Annie Rubio, created these crosses that you can purchase for $4 or stickers. And all proceeds will go to Young Life Armenia, which Craig mentioned that in partnership. And so we have them here in the back, and we will also have a link that on social media and email to all these organizations, as well as the opportunity to purchase this. So thank you all again, and I will turn this over to Bodville Greg Hartunian, who is, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Also, Zavan Khanjan will be here from the AMAA in October, I believe. And he is inviting all of you to join him when he comes. And at First Armenian Presbyterian Church, and we'll be letting you know as the time gets closer that that's the opportunity that you can take. All right, so now we'll hear from Bodville Greg Hartunian, who's in Houston right now, but wanted to be here with us.
Thanks a lot, Noelle. Thanks for your leadership in this event, and to all the participants, thank you so much for both being at the church and for coming in, Harut and Craig coming in from Armenia. Thank you so much, because we need to know what's going on. We hear bits and pieces and snippets, and it's not enough for us just to have an emotional response. It's not enough for us just to think about it or have debates among ourselves. We really do need to act. So whether God's laying on your heart, helping care for children, helping the families who have been displaced in Artsakh, helping work in discipleship in Armenia, helping work in the political realm, whatever God is laying on your heart, please don't ignore that voice. He is giving us the privilege and the responsibility of being his hands and his feet. And so please, you're not sure what you're supposed to do, ask him. Take advantage of one of the opportunities, one of the organizations that's presented, and please step forward. You can make a difference. You really can. You may not see it now, but every little bit, every little sticker can make a difference. So people have often said that there's more than you can do than simply pray. But really, until we pray, I'm not sure if anything that we do will really matter. And that's for sure the case with the kingdom of God. So would you please join me in prayer, and we'll close our time together. Father, I thank you for moving in the organizations and the individuals that we've heard from today. This has been a gift for us. Thanks for the privilege to be a mouthpiece to give voice to those who are serving both in Armenia and here in the United States to try to impact and bless Armenia. We ask, Father, that you would not let any of us rest until we respond to you. We ask for special grace and special mercy for the families that have been traumatized by the Artsakh war. We cannot even imagine, we can't comprehend all that they've gone through. And so our prayer is that you would supernaturally bless them by your Spirit, that you would bring comfort. We pray that you would bring wisdom to the nation in the upcoming election. We pray that the United States would stand for justice and would speak out in ways that we've been too long silent. Lord, for every effort that is presented to bless the people of Armenia, we ask that you would prosper that. Forgive us for our laziness. Forgive us for thinking someone else should do it. I pray that you would move, that each one of us would respond to play our part. And again, I thank you for the privilege of being able to have a part. We ask for your grace and your blessing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you again for being a part of this. And again, Noelle, thanks for your leadership.